Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those of you joining us on the West Coast today. Segal Select would like to welcome you to today's webinar presentation. This is 2013 Fiduciary Liability, Cyber Liability, and Fidelity Bond, a policy coverage update. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers. We have Mark Dabro, our Vice President, Matthew Jackson, also Vice President, and Brian Smith, our Chief Operating Officer. Now I'll turn the call over to Brian.
Thank you, Liza, and welcome everyone. And some of you might have been with us last week, and so this is fairly quick for us to do two of these back to back. But with these new forms that are coming out, we just thought it was important to try and jump on them as quickly as possible and provide you with some alert of what you might be looking for in these forms. Our core products are these four. Today we're going to touch upon three of them, the fiduciary, the fidelity, and the cyber liability. And looking at the fiduciary first, we're going to look at these various forms. AIG introduced its new EDGE form in 2009. Chubb has announced it's going to introduce an endorsement that will provide a lot of enhancements. It's going through the final vetting process and then the filing process with the various states. Euclid with Hudson. Euclid is the managing general agent or underwriter for Hudson for fiduciary liability. They are calling theirs the Vanguard form. This form was introduced in December of 2012. Both the Euclid and the Ullico are December of 2012. And Ullico Altera is the latest one that we're going to talk about, and that is also, as we just said, December of 2012. The coverage issues we want to try and get through. The first one on all of these policies, they're going to be driven by the insurance clause and the definitions within those insurance clause. Defense is always important because it's usually the first thing we want these policies to do. We want to look at the clarifications that are being provided, particularly maybe as respects the benefits due exclusion and the voluntary correction programs, and then finally the various coverage enhancements that are going to be provided. This is going to be a very high-level, quick review. We could spend literally weeks trying to do this rather than trying to cover it within 1 hour. Now, violating Rule 101 of any presentation, there's too much on this graphic. And you're going to see that on these series of graphs, and we're saying it right up front. What we're providing you with is the actual text of the insurance contract. This is what the policy literally says in the insuring clause for AIG's fiduciary policy under its EDGE form. On this next page, you see the insuring clause for the Altera, the Vanguard, and the Chubb form. Each of them are being driven by definitions. In all of these contracts, you can see, and we were talking about this earlier as we were preparing, all of these policies basically, Matt, they're saying what? They're going to cover breaches of fiduciary duty and administrative errors and omission.
Correct.
Correct. That didn't say much. That didn't take much, did it? The Chubb policy is 8 pages. The Ullico in its various iterations, but we're looking at the Altera right now, is going to be 13 pages. The Vanguard is 18 pages, and the National Union EDGE policy is 21 pages to say they're going to cover breaches of fiduciary duty and administrative errors and omissions. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but my reaction is when I see that many pages, it's really trying to say maybe what they're not covering, or trying to clarify in what dimensions they're covering these issues. And all these slides we're trying to do is right now is get the point across, read the words, be careful. There are very detailed legal words being put in here to try to explain how they're going to provide breaches of fiduciary duty and administrative errors and omissions. Matt, any comments so far on this?
Just on these past two slides, these bolded terms are the defined terms within the policy.
Correct.
So even these a little more compact sentences here, you have to go through a lot of definitions to really encapsulate everything that this sentence actually says.